Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Healing Words podcast. Our guest today is Robert Baines Jr. Robert Baines Jr. is a man of many callings. He's a business owner, finance professional, speaker, ordained minister, and dedicated family man. He's also a multi-published author using his writing skills, his spiritual knowledge, and business background to help others live their best lives. Today, he joins us to discuss his newest book, Money Management for Teens. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. This book almost didn't leave your home. You weren't, this wasn't the original plan. Tell us how it came to be.
Well, I believe that passage of scripture that talks about a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And so I am on that path. But as I have observed my grandchildren and my children, it became clear to me not only do they need an inheritance, but they need some wisdom to go along with the inheritance. And so as I began to jot down what I thought they needed to know, it became clear to me there's a whole lot of kids that need to know. I wish I would have had more clarity when I was a teenager. And so I said, why don't I share it with a larger audience? And then the research confirmed that there is a larger audience for um, financial money management for teenagers. And so pushed through and got it done.
Okay. So things are, you and I are from the same generation. I'm wondering if your research has shown you that finances for our kids are different than when we were that age.
Mm, I think there's definitely some differences in that when I was a child, there was a such thing as working for a Chevrolet plant or Bethlehem Steel for a certain amount of years, and then you could get a pension.
Mm.
The life expectancy was, in our minds, shorter. So Social Security was better because you didn't need it as much. I think the challenge of the Gen Z and those who are teenagers today is they will have to look in history books to discover what is a pension. And Social Security would be just some pocket change, taxable pocket change. And so they're going to have to learn how to make it on their own. They can't count on Big Brother or big business to take care of them. So I think that's a big difference. Um, and I think they got to learn how to stop being a victim. They're
Mm.
going to have to become proactive and they need to do it early so they can enjoy the benefits of compounding interest. They can't afford to wait until they're 40, 50 years old and get serious. They've wasted a lot of time.
Okay. Now, the foundation of your book is based upon your money mindset is based upon earning high, spending low, and investing wisely. Could you explain each of those?
Absolutely. So it starts with having a money mindset. If you don't have that, you're not going to be able to do the rest because you won't have the grit needed to make the money. You won't have the discipline to spend low. You won't have the discipline to invest wisely because it takes time for money to grow. So it starts with the mindset. And so that mindset includes one, having some financial literacy. It's not rocket science, but it's some things you need to know. Then you need to work on just your own self-image to understand that you are more than where you have been, what you have experienced, that if you are the product of a single family home, if you're a product of what we used to call welfare recipients, if it's generational government assistance, um, if you're a product of abuse, whatever you can come up with, you got a decision. You can either say, I'm a product of that, and that excuses you from excelling, or you can say, yes, that's where I was at, but I'm going forward to a better place. So that self-image is extremely important in mindset. If you see yourself as a grasshopper, people are going to treat you as a grasshopper. If you see yourself as a giant slayer, people are going to treat you as a giant slayer. So your self-image is important. And then having grit. Those are the three components of the mindset. Financial literacy, which you can read from books, blogs, etc. But your self-image, you can read about it, but you really need somebody who almost believes in you to help you see you're not just reading words, but you really can be more than what you have experienced. And then just that fortitude, the grit, stick-to-itiveness, being able to fight through instant gratification and, seeing that I'm running for the long haul. All those things fit under mindset. If you don't have that mindset, you're going to get distracted or
Right.
bored, whatever, and you won't make it to financial independence.
Okay. All right. And the earning high and spending low, that's kind of self-explanatory. Is that something that has to be introduced to kids?
Absolutely. So I know that when I was coming through high school, it seemed as if it was expected of me to go to college and my peers to go to college. And if you didn't go to college, you were almost viewed as less than.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a grandfather, I can kind of see what was going on there. That my parents did not have the opportunity to go to college as much as I did. And so they assumed that if their son could just get a degree, he's going to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, However, and it worked out for me, praise God, it worked out for me, but it did not work out as well for my daughters. It did not work out as well for some of my daughter's peers and some of my peers. That nobody hires you just because you have a degree. They hire you because you can do something.
Mm-hmm.
And degree might be one of the selection criterias that if you got two people, both of them got the same level of skill, one got a degree, one doesn't, they might use the degree to eliminate the one that doesn't. But
Right.
be clear, nobody is hiring you because you got a piece of paper on the wall. They're hiring you because of what they think you can do after you earned the piece of paper. So earning high is making enough money over your living expenses to get you on the path to financial independence. So you can't spend
Mm-hmm.
everything you get.
Right.
And we can talk about, the three things I wish I would have looked at in career exploration. But then spending low, understanding you are not your stuff. That if you see yourself as ugly, inferior, whatever, and you go out and buy all of this expensive stuff, you're still ugly, inferior. You just got some expensive stuff.
Now
So
you in debt.
now you're in debt. So you would be better off dealing with your psychological wounds as
Right.
opposed to trying to use retail therapy to make yourself feel better.
Right.
Because you cannot spend all you make and have enough money to invest. And then investing wisely, of course, is after you've earned high, spent low, you're going to take this difference and you're going to invest wisely. And so I talk about seven different things that the young people need to take a look at. And then two of the non-traditional ways. But the ideal is you need to put your money to work for you
Mm-hmm.
so that at some point in the future, you'll have enough money coming back from your investments to cover your living expenses. And that is when you've reached financial independence.
There you go. There you go. Now, this book, you have exercises in there, you have examples, case studies, because you've made it clear. It's very, very relatable. A good read, an easy read about a not so easy topic, but you've made it clear that this is not a financial solvency, independence. It's not a one size fits all. So you
Absolutely.
are giving them the tools and so they can know how to do it. But I want to back up to one point that stuck out to me. You've made it clear that college is not for everyone. You even said it here. What would be, to the parents listening, what would be a sign that perhaps college is not for this young person?
I think the young person needs to understand what are their aptitudes. What do they enjoy doing? What do they have? Um, what comes easy for them to do? They enjoy doing it. Then how can they monetize that? And is there a demand for that school, that skill, that aptitude? Now, I think most young people have something that they already halfway enjoy doing, can make some money doing, and it's in demand. But in the event that they don't, then they need to appreciate the fact that they are young enough to learn.
Mm,
Let's say they don't know how to do anything and they don't have a strong urge to do anything. They're young enough to say, all right, out of all of these things that are in demand and can make money, ideally, which one do I like the best? At worst, which one do I hate the least? Everything is not going to be everything is not going to be fun and exciting.
right.
Uh, and so I think that's really, you need to look for that three-piece intersection. What does the kid have inclination to do? They might not be passionate about it. Passion would be great. Everybody don't live a passionate life, but it's something that kind of comes easy to
Comes
them,
naturally, right.
natural. They like doing it, hopefully. They can't hate it. They can't hate it. So no matter how much money you make, you can't hate doing your work day after day after day. But at the same time, you don't have to be jumping up and down excited about it either. So, but they
Right.
need some inclination. They need to be able to make some money doing it, and it needs to be in demand. So you don't want to have a monetizable inclination that's going out of style. You need
Mm,
something that's going to be in demand, that at least for the next 20 to 30 years, because that's how long you need in order for you to be financial independence. And so you need to check that out. And so I give the young people some tools to assess their aptitudes, the demand, and is this thing monetizable?
okay. Excellent. I want to back up to the subtitle of your book. Your book is titled Money Management for Teens: Financial Literacy and Practical Skills for Financial Independence, even for those who don't come from money. That
Absolutely.
is, to me, that is an important distinction because I think our young people are, they're on social media, they see all these famous people or not so famous people making all this money, and then they're looking at themselves, and they may live in public housing, they may be in a single parent household, they may have some strikes against them where they don't see this every day, and because they don't see it in their world, they think that they can attain it. Do
That's
you
exactly.
speak to that in your book?
Absolutely. So nobody's given an excuse in the book, no matter how bad your current or past situation was. If you get your mind right, you can start moving in the right direction. That the journey of 1,000 miles start with one step. So it's unreasonable to expect the kid to see financial independence, but you should be able to see you can read a book, you can have a conversation with somebody, you can research what are your aptitudes. And so you're taking steps in the right direction. Don't expect you to see the destination, but there's no reason why you can't take steps in the right direction. And if your circumstances are such that you have to take a detour or a delay, then see that as a detour or a delay. But as soon as you're able to get back on path, get back on path. And again, that comes with your identity. How do you see yourself? Are you a victim of this is what I have to do because of my family dynamics? Or is it a situation where this is something I got to do for now, but as soon as I'm able, I'm going to get
Mhm.
back over here. So that self-identity piece is extremely important. I believe in that being, doing, having idea that if a person doesn't change their being, who they see themselves as, then it's going to be hard for them to continue to do the work. And therefore, they won't get the results that they're looking for. Um, that self-identity is going to be overriding. If a person see themselves as a loser, they're going to
Mm,
find a way to lose.
mm,
See yourself as a winner, you're going to find a way to win.
exactly. Now, suppose we have a parent listening and they're all on board with this. They're listening, they haven't even gotten the book, they're gonna get the book, but they're concerned that their child, their student, their 16-year-old may not be. What would your advice be to them? Because they can't do the work for the child.
Absolutely. I would urge them to give the child a chance, buy the book, see what happens. Try to incentivize the kid if you can afford it. Kids like money. So if you read the book and write me a report, let's have a discussion about it. You can get some money. Um, or kids respond well to peer pressure. If you get the kid for one of their friends who enjoys it, it might be enough positive peer pressure to make them want it. But you would know your kid better than I would. If you got a kid who wants to live a comfortable life, wants to travel, have time freedom, wants to be able to help people, then that's called financial independence. And this book can help them get there. I have a 10-year-old grandson, and I'm coaching him through almost a catechism related to financial independence. And one of the things I understood was he got to understand why, if there's not a motivation that's important to him, he's not going to retain the information. And so,
Mm,
why do you want to be financially independent? I want to be financially independent because I want to live a comfortable life. I
mhm.
want to be able to travel whenever I get ready to travel. He wants to be able to support missions around the world. That's called money. And so financial independence can help you get to that point. So help the teenagers see how financial independence, that might not be their language. They
Right.
want to have the bag, is what I hear them talking about. That's fine. Whatever language you want to use, what it comes down to is you want breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a shelter over your head without going to work.
You want to live inside. You
Come
want to
on.
live indoors.
Whatever you want to call that, that's what I'm talking about.
I am, on the one hand, I'm kind of excited for this group of young people. I mean, they are doing it. They've overcome some things our um that hinder our generation. They are getting on social media and they are making money.
Yeah,
Yeah, so those are some of the things that excite me. What are you seeing that excite you? Because you have grandchildren. How do
yeah.
you see that they are different than you were?
I think the most exciting thing I see about this next generation is that God is as faithful with
Mm,
them as he was with me in previous generations. I
yes.
am impressed by young people's um, inclination to deal with technology. So my youngest grandchild is 5 years old. He's had tablets since he was born. The 8 and 10-year-old, um, technology since they've been born, and they are proficient at it. Um, and so that's good. But if they don't have that personal development stuff together, it's not going to do much. I mean, so it's almost like a highly intelligent person who has poor character.
Mm.
That's the danger. So they
We
got,
see that a lot.
yeah. These young
We
people
see
have style. but I'm not as impressed by their character, their principles. So I like the fact that they are not as discriminatory,
Yes,
racist as previous generations,
yes.
but it is primarily because it is not of their personal interest. They are historically ignorant. They have no idea about the struggle and oftentimes don't want to understand the struggle. Let's just start today. Let's just be happy until they wake up one day and find out they didn't got passed over for the promotion. They got denied for the loan. And despite them being colorblind, they learn America is not colorblind.
Mm,
And it may be more naivety for them to think that America is as colorblind as they assume. Now, their generation do a better job than mine. Mine did a better job than my parents and grandparents, but the raw numbers say we're still not there yet. The wealth gap, the health gap, incarceration gaps say as much as we want to feel like we're moving to this post-racist world, the hardcore facts say, no, you just feel better. It is not as good as you think it is.
right. So much you don't know.
So much you don't know. That's exactly right. So their
Yes.
ignorance is bliss.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
unfortunately, if you keep on living, your ignorance is going to get burst. You're going to find
Yeah.
out some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I am of the generation in my city when I was in first grade, the schools in my city were integrated. And people my age, you remember your parents giving you the talk before you left the house.
Yes.
Behave when you're out here. And we didn't have to do that with our children.
Right. Right.
So
I
there
think
there is a difference.
even now, I am cautious with my grandson, so I'm probably chauvinistic or something. But my reality says that my grandsons need to work on their self-control and do not give cops a reason to put their hands on you. So when I watch my 10-year-old have these temper tantrums because they cannot get their way, from a grandfather's perspective, I'm saying, okay, in 8 years, my 10-year-old grandson is going to be 18 years old. He's a big, husky kid. So I can see cops being afraid of him and his inability to shut his mouth. He thinks he's supposed to be able to talk back and as long as he want to. And that's not a good thing for a black man to do in America. And so I do warn them. I try not to be an alarmist. I don't want them walking around with anxiety, but I want them to have a realistic understanding about what's happening. And their millennial parents do not seem to be as assertive with this subject matter as I am.
Mm,
But when something happens to their son, then they're going to be in all of this emotional drama. Whereas if they would have perhaps been a little bit more assertive,
right.
we could have avoided some of this.
Yes, yes. Um, this is not your first book. Actually, we think you're 13 or 14, somewhere around there.
Yes, yes, yes. I've been writing for a long time.
Okay. Okay. Tell us, I have a couple of your titles I want to talk about. Now, you have some about dealing with difficult people, how to deal with guilt, how to stay focused.
Yes,
Those are great. What about the one where you had is titled 25 Years of Pastoring Black Baptist Church?
yes. It's really a memoir of my 25 years of pastoring. So I served 29 years. I wrote this book after the 25th year. Um, and I think the major reason for writing it was to help preachers that's coming along behind me um, understand the story behind what they see. Unfortunately, there are not many Black Baptist writers. So when you have Baptists, when you have Black people who feel as if they've been called to serve Baptist churches, we oftentimes have to read white literature and
Mm,
twist it and manipulate it and do what we got to do to make it work for a Black context. So it's
mm.
almost like taking metric wrenches and nuts and bolts and trying to put it on a standard vehicle. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I wanted to contribute something from a Black experience for whoever want to read it, but specifically for Black Baptist clergy to see some of the struggle that has gone into this, how earning a doctorate of ministry degree is great, but it doesn't mean that everything is just going to change on a dime because you Reverend Doctor for real now. um,
And you
and
do have that degree.
I do, I do. I
Okay.
earned my doctorate from United Seminary in 2003 in economic and spiritual empowerment in Black churches. So I've stayed
Mm.
true to my studies, stayed true to my studies. And so that was the push behind the book, giving um, younger preachers a point of reference where they can say, okay, I'm not going to make this mistake that Baines made, but I like this about Baines. I think I'll take a piece of that and I'll figure this part out when I get down the road.
Okay, so you mentioned having to take a white text and kind of uh, manipulate a little bit. How is white Baptist church different from Black Baptist church?
That's an excellent question. Here's one of the biggest ones. White Baptists oftentimes have the privilege to focus on what they call orthodoxy, that is, right doctrine. So they will spend a whole lot of time talking about nothing, doctrinal differences, being politically correct. So you got these people that's upset because you said tomato instead of tomato, and they're talking about a bunch of irrelevant stuff, or they get into style difference. Should you preach in a robe or not? Should you serve communion at 6 o'clock or not? Your ability to control what women are going to do in your church. And then the silliest thing of all is eschatology, arguing about what's going to happen after we die, as if any of us got any other information that the other people don't have. With Black Baptists, historic Black Baptists, these new Baptists are becoming white, in my opinion. Historic Black Baptists have been more concerned with orthopraxis. How do we practice the doctrine? And therefore,
Mm,
you get into social justice, you
there you
get
go.
into economic justice. So Martin Luther King was a Baptist preacher. Jesse Jackson was a Baptist preacher, is a Baptist preacher. Al Sharpton, Baptist preacher. Trying to remember the congressman from Harlem, New York. Soon as I get off, I'm going to remember it. Adam
Mhm.
Clayton Powell. Adam
Ah,
Clayton Powell, Baptist preacher. Um, so our religion is not just a bunch of irrelevant knowledge and individual piety. How long is your dress? And should you
mhm.
sing all of the verses to the hymn and all this kind of
Right.
stuff? We're trying to figure out
How to live it.
how to live it. How can
Mm.
we get out of Egyptian captivity? How can we get to the promised land? So Black Baptists hold on to stuff called liberation theology.
Mm.
James Cone would be one of the big names here, where we're trying to break out of being mistreated. So you got
Got it.
some white Baptists who are trying to be good slave owners. Black Baptists trying to break out of slavery. Big
Yeah,
difference.
yeah. We're not even okay. I got it. Okay, so I'm sorry.
Nope.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so Daphne, your wife,
Yes.
she's also a writer, and she co-authored a book with you, Back to Our Roots.
Yes.
This was a look at a trip to Ghana you had.
That's exactly right.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so this was an exciting trip for us. First time we had been overseas. I did serve 4 years in the military, but all that time was stateside. So this was the first time overseas. My dad had recently passed. He had left an inheritance. And one of the things he urged me to do was to do some traveling. And so we went to Ghana and then we went to Israel in the same trip. So Ghana, we wrote Back to Your Roots. And then the trip to Israel was the Holy Land. But Ghana, it was a great trip. I'm glad I went. It was much more developed than what I thought. I tried to just be open to whatever would happen. I didn't know what to expect. I knew it wasn't going to be Tarzan and Jane and people swinging through trees, but I did not know what to expect. I was pleasantly surprised to see how developed the country was. Young people walking around with perms. The girls had perm in their hair, flat screen TV, watching hip hop and rap groups from America. All of the kids want to go to America. That was interesting. Accra was the capital of Ghana. And so if I lived in Ghana, I would be in or around Accra. But you can go 20 miles outside of Accra and just be, in America, we would call it the boonies. These are people living without electricity, no indoor plumbing. We would describe
Wow.
this as living in like a clay hut.
Mm,
And they're comfortable. This is all they've known. For me, it seems so primitive, but they were happy. So I think it goes to show that stuff doesn't necessarily make you happy. Your mindset makes you happy. But I would recommend anybody who can afford to go to Ghana, check it out. We went to the dungeons and the place of no return and all that kind of stuff. I left there feeling as if I loved them more than they loved me. I felt as if it was, for some, I was just a commercial tourist to them. They just saw me as somebody to spend some money in their economy. They did not share my affections
right,
about being my brothers. In fact,
right.
one of the guys trying to sell me some stuff said, "You're not my brother." And he referred to my wife as white. Now you have to understand, my wife is probably 4 to 5 shades darker than I am.
Mhm.
So what he meant by white was she was privileged. Now you would have to understand that both of us grew up in the ghettos of Buffalo, New York.
Mm.
So nobody ever referred to us as privileged. And so
Was he
it was,
calling you that just because you were American?
I think that, and he didn't want to learn anything different. He just saw me as a person to give him some money for the stuff that he's selling. And there's really no bond other than that. Whereas
Mindset,
that's exactly right. So whereas I
mindset.
wanted to bond around our experience as Black people, that wasn't the situation. In
Right.
fact, I learned how empty the expression Black is. When African Americans use the term Black in America, we mean African American. It's one and the same. When you go to another country where everybody's Black and you talking about you Black, that means absolutely nothing. That you got to understand all of the tribalism among Black tribes in Africa, and just a long story, simply to say, everybody that's your skin color is not your kin.
That's it. Kinfolk ain't kinfolk.
There you go.
You mentioned your father, and I want to back up a second because it kind of, in my mind, kind of goes a little bit into your subtitle, the
Mhm.
generational thing. Because you
Yes,
said in your book, your father was a sharecropper with what, a third grade education. Excuse me,
grandfather.
your grandfather was a had a third grade education.
Right,
Your father had did he do elementary
right.
school, but then he was
He
a
earned his
minister.
bachelor's degree and got his honorary doctorate degree in my doctoral role. Very
Oh,
special.
okay. So whereas your subtitle is kind of, I don't know, moving backward, we are concerned about youth who don't have good financial role models around them. It was opposite for you. Yours is going this way. Educational, the
To some
education has
degree.
increased,
Right.
correct?
Yes, yes. So the subtitle was inspired by most of the teenagers I know do not come from money. If they go to college, they're going to have to look for Pell Grants, scholarships, and work jobs, etc. Most of the kids I know, their parents are not paying the whole thing. A few, but not all, not even most. However, I don't want that to be their excuse for not pursuing financial independence. The fact that you don't come from money, the fact that people don't talk about money. A lot of people don't talk about money because they don't have any. So it's nothing to talk about. It's a real short story. But the young people, if they can take all of this energy they use to learn TikTok and X and Twitter and Periscope and whatever else is going on out there, if
Right.
they take that same energy and learn how to make some money that they can just tie directly into assets that's going up in value instead of
Right.
spending it all, they can be pleasantly surprised where they are at on their 40th birthday. Now, for
And
teenagers,
that's not a long ways out.
that's a whole lot closer than 65 and 70. When you're
Right.
talking to a kid about 65 and 70, that's ancient history. They can't even think in those terms. How do you
Right.
talk to a 16-year-old about being 65 or 70? They have no point of reference for that. When you talk to them about 40, that's like twice, that's like living your life all over again in a little
Right.
bit more. That's a little bit more manageable. They see 40 as old, but it's manageable. They see 40-year-olds still being active.
Hmm.
It's a very realistic goal to be financially independent. If not financially independent, at least financially comfortable. You working where you want to work, doing what you want to do at 40, if you do the right stuff as a teenager.
As a teenager,
Right. But if you
not too
don't do it as
young.
a teenager, you don't get a chance to wake up in your 20s and bag up, that time is gone. And if you
Mhm.
waste your 20s rebelling against your parents, trying to raise you the best they knew how as a teenager, the 20s are going to be gone. Then you wake up at 35 with a child, and now you got another liability.
You know, these are good lessons to learn because of the pivots that life takes.
Come
You could
on.
be doing all the right things, and at 25, something happens to take you off your course.
That's exactly right.
And if you have not developed any kind of discipline, it's going to throw you. You may not get back on that horse.
That's exactly right.
Um, there could be a, sickness or a divorce or this or that. Something happens when you're 25, 30, 40. But you have developed, if you start this now, you've got the skill set. You have the mindset
Yes,
to know how to work through something.
that's exactly right.
So important. Earlier, you said you made a comment because I wrote it down. You said there were three things you wished you knew about career exploration.
Right.
I'm wondering, is it feasible to expect a 17-year-old to know what he wants to do?
No, but the elders should know what questions to ask and help them discern their aptitudes.
Mhm.
And I think that that was missing for me and many people. I think is very important. I mean, my guidance counselor, I think, should be arrested for negligence. He owes the school system money back. That I was an honor graduate. I graduated on the honor roll from a technical high school in computer electronics. I went into the Air Force and they asked a 17-year-old, what do you want to do? My father owned a little corner grocery store. So I said, well, I work in the commissary and figure it out. I know how to work. The commissary is a military grocery store, big grocery store. Um, However, my guidance counselor, my recruiter, nobody said, wait a minute, you are an honor graduate? You on the honor roll? Okay. So you can do more than just put bananas over here and apples over there and potatoes over here. You can do more than just run a forklift, a pallet jack.
Right.
Somebody should have set a brother down and explained that. I think a part of that was my dad was not a fan of me going into the military.
Mm.
Uh, he caught up with the idea, so he was not much help in what to do in the military. He did not go into the military.
Right.
I did not find coaches along the way, so I had to figure it out as I went. What I wish would have happened is for uncles, aunts, these men around church, the guidance counselor would be nice, but you can't count on the system to do you right. But your village
Mm.
should have set you down and had some conversations about what do you want to do
Right.
and how are we going to get there? What's your plan, etc. Um, I wish I would have had that. I figured it out, and it was character building. I have empathy now for young people, for men who are frustrated with how life have turned out for them. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that
Yeah.
kids really need to get that aptitude, monetization, and demand. They need to have some sense of that early on.
I homeschooled my children, and I think it was 3 years or so, I would give them an aptitude test and we would redo the Myers-Briggs
Yes,
and I was tracking because one of my daughters wanted to go into the medical field, and at one point she wanted to be a doctor, not with her makeup, let's put it that way.
right.
Those long kind of hours would not work for her. So then she switched over and she wanted to be a missionary. We spoke about that earlier. And that was more in line with what both the Myers-Briggs and the aptitude testing was tracking that.
Yes.
So yeah, so she ended up going to school and studying history. She wants to be a museum archivist and she works in a museum now.
Okay.
And
Okay.
my oldest daughter she was a dancer for a while with the Richmond Ballet, and now she is a flight attendant.
Hmm.
Both of those totally in keeping with her natural bent, her natural personality.
Right.
So I understand exactly what you're saying.
That's exactly
But
right.
at that young age, they would not have been able to sit down and mouth, this is what I
No,
want to do.
no. That they need some gray hair around them to help them think this thing through. And then
Hmm.
they need exposure. I mean, if
Hmm.
the kid only have a hammer, they think everything is a nail. So you
Hmm.
got to give them some extra tools. You got to help them see some stuff that they've never seen before. Kids never thought about being an engineer because they didn't know what an engineer was.
Right.
So they knew how to be a handyman. They didn't know nothing about an engineer because they hadn't been exposed to an engineer. And so I think that as we learn better, we need to do the best we can. But when the road is running out in front of you, you become very serious about investing in those that's coming behind you. And I think this is a big thing because these kids, when they turn 40, are not going to have big businesses, and they're not going to have Social Security, and their life expectancy is expected to be longer than ours.
Right.
So how you going to keep living and your money is not right? America then ran out of charity welfare. We ain't never going back to welfare. So that's over. So you got to figure out how you're going to make it. And if the village is not expressing an urgency about this, then the kid is not going to have urgency about this. And by the time they figure it out on their own, they have lost 20 years of
Right.
compounding interest. Their money could have flipped 3 times by the time they turn for a kid could come up, hustle up $50 at age 16. And by the time they turn 40, that money could have flipped 3, 4 times, depending upon what it's invested in.
Right.
Kid, wait until they're 40 and put the same $50 aside. First of all, the $50 ain't worth much. It's 20 years.
That's a
You know,
tank of gas.
that's maybe. And so I am passionate about this because I can just see
Yes.
how my daughters, and tomorrow's a different day. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But as I see it right now, they are not going to be as well off at my age as I am. My father did much better than his father.
Right.
I did better than my father. I don't think my daughters are going to do better than me. And I'm not optimistic that my grandchildren are going to do better than their parents. So
Yeah.
my portion is not just to leave some money, but to leave some wisdom through
Correct.
the book as well as through coaching. So some kids are just going to have to read the book and try to find some peers to work it out.
Right.
My children are going to have the benefit of having the author sitting them down talking about, let's talk this through. Let's go through the book, because I can't leave my money to somebody that can't handle the money. I
There
give
you
it to
go.
the Negro College Fund. So you need to show me you understand the concept.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, this has been wonderful. Where can our listeners and viewers find you online?
Online, you can go to Facebook, Robert Baines. I also have a undeveloped YouTube channel where I
Okay.
just put up almost random stuff.
Okay.
But
Are you Robert Baines on YouTube as well?
I am.
Okay. I'll put
And
all of this in the liner notes.
yes, ma'am. And then you got my link tree is
Okay.
robertbaines.com. And so
Okay.
when you get there, you'll see that I have a free book on how to be a growing Christian in this crazy world.
Mhm.
You'll learn about my website that hosts articles and sermons and stuff I've done. But the way to get the book, Money Management for Teens, best way to do that is just go to Amazon and search Money Management for Teens, Baines, Baines, and I
I'll
should
put
be there.
I'll put the link there and they can find all of your books there actually.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So we're at the point of our interview where I ask you the same 5 questions I ask all of our guests. We are the Healing Words podcast. So all of my questions are going to come from the first letter of the word words. W, when? You kind of answered this already. When did you know for certain that you would write this book?
Probably about 90 days ago. It's been in my
Really?
spirit.
Was it that quick?
Yes. Oh, yes. It didn't take long.
Okay.
I had the desire to leave something for my grandchildren. About 90 days ago, I decided I'm just going to write a book and the grandkids can read the book as opposed to me leaving just private notes for them.
Okay. Um, Now, O can be obstacles or organized. Are you retired now? No, you're a business owner. You work in the financial sector. How did you organize? Well, it only took you 90 days. I was going to say, how did you organize your time to get this taken care of? But let me also ask you, were there any obstacles in your way?
Yes, I had to learn how to use AI. So I was in a training program that was supposed to have been teaching you how to write and make money with books. So I definitely learned some things. It was not as easy as they said it would be.
Yeah,
You can definitely spit out an AI book, but I would have been embarrassed to put my name on it. So I feel like AI assisted me with
right.
finding some research real quick. So instead of me having to go find all of this stuff, it was pretty nearby. I'm
Mm,
not the most creative guy, so believe it or not, AI helped me with the stories in the book.
okay.
So that was an obstacle. And then I am very busy. So I started a bookkeeping business this year, and I'm adding tax preparation this year. And both of those things require undivided attention. But I had a passion to finish the book. And so I got it done. Now I'm trying to do the audio book, and that's a whole nother learning experience. I think I'm just going to have somebody to read it for me. And if
Yeah.
I get the energy to read it myself, I can always swap out the narration. But if I want to get a check mark, I better get somebody else to read.
I think you'll do fine. Rear view mirror. Now, I've read the book, and when I wrote my review, because reviews are very important, my title of the review was, "This is the book," because this is what I thought as I was reading it. This is the book that I wish I'd had when
Yeah.
I was 16.
Yes, yes.
When I was 16, came from a single parent household, and money was hard to come by. And a lot of the education I got about money was false. It was a scarcity mindset.
Yep.
Um, paying bills was a chore and a burden. Yeah, so I had to rethink a lot of things. So for the R, what would you have told yourself? What kind of stories we're looking at the rear view, that's what R means. What kind of money stories did you have when you were growing up?
I thought I had to get a college degree, get a good job, and work 40 years and retire. I believe that. I feel as if I was steered in that direction, despite my dad not following that path, my uncles, some of my uncles not following that path. Um, Most people have heard of the buffalo wings, buffalo chicken wings.
Mhm.
Most people have heard of buffalo chicken wings. Have you heard of buffalo wings? No? Buffalo
No.
wings are a big thing in especially Buffalo. But
Okay.
my uncle, John Young, was the founder of that. He owned a restaurant in Buffalo, New York, and they have finally given him his credit. Some white folk from the Anchor Bar stole his ideal, the mambo sauce and all that kind of stuff, and they went a different direction. So the city's waking up, seeing what really happened with
Okay.
buffalo wings and that whole thing. So I had entrepreneurs in my family. Uh, Paul Young, another restaurant owner there in Buffalo. This is my um, uncles,
Mhm.
my mother's brothers, cousins. We spent time with one another, family reunion. I mean, but nobody tried to put the entrepreneurial spirit in me. Nobody tried to
Right.
put skill development or trade development in me. I was
Right.
supposed to be the college boy. So in my
Mm.
rear view mirror, I would go back and try to expose myself to different ideals, as well as understand the importance of financial independence.
Hmm.
I think as a child, I was trying to get a good job, make good money, because I figured I'd be working all of my life. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Now I would say, no, you ought to try to become financially independent so you can do whatever you feel like doing. When you're financially independent, you can do whatever you feel like doing, go wherever you want to go, help whoever you want to help. When you have
Yes.
a good job, that means somebody else is controlling your time and your income. I don't know
Mhm.
any job with unlimited income potential. That these people have set your income limit, they control your time. If something is wrong with your tooth, it's risky to just go to the dentist. You got to tell somebody, I'm going to the dentist. Can I go to the dentist? I mean,
Right.
come on now. When you're a kid, that's fine, but the older you get, the less tolerable it becomes
Right.
to go get permission. Can I get permission to go get this tooth right here that's hurting me fixed? That
Right.
don't.
Right.
And so my rear view and what I want my young teen grandchildren to understand is, don't try to impress me with your degree. Don't disappoint me by going out here buying a brand new car and you don't have a portfolio. If you want to impress me, talk me through how you're going to be financially independent by 40. If you really want to impress me, show you how you're going to do it by 35, 30. The earlier you become financially independent, the prouder I'm going to be of what you're doing. And once you become financially independent, then you can go back and do your little passion projects for free. So I
Exactly.
don't have a problem with my grandson talking about being a missionary, but if you can't show me how you're going to monetize that, that don't make a whole lot of sense to me. How you
Right.
gonna be a husband with children and you eating beans and rice? What's happening here? So
Right.
in my mind, if it don't make money, it don't make sense.
Excellent. Okay, the S, strengthened. You had an idea 90 days ago. How do you
Yeah.
feel now that you're at the end of that? What does that feel like?
I have learned some things about how to get book reviews, about how to write the book quicker. Um, I'm getting ready to learn about this audiobook stuff. I can see how audiobooks is just an untapped market
I
that
love audiobooks.
yeah, a lot of people would rather listen than read. They have a
Mhm.
desire to read, they don't have the discipline to read. It takes
Mhm.
less discipline to listen. The problem is an overwhelming majority of books are not on audio. It's just
Mhm.
so if you can get a good book on audio, it opens up a whole nother stream of income and people who can consume your content. So
Correct.
I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. All right, Mr. Baines, thank you so much for dropping by. This has been so wonderful. Are you doing any speaking? Can people contact you to speak either in person because you're in Ohio or virtually?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Okay.
would definitely be
I'll,
open to that.
okay.
I think I would probably do my best work talking to teenagers and caregivers. I'm sorry,
Okay.
parents and
Parent.
caregivers
Okay.
about their teens. I would probably do a B job of
Okay.
engaging the teenagers directly. So I would be
Oh,
the type of person, let me do the presentation, and then
mhm.
this person is going to facilitate the discussion with the
There you
team.
go. There you go. Excellent. I will put all that in our liner notes. And to our viewers and listeners in the comments, I would love for you to type in what kind of money lessons did you learn growing up? Did you learn any of this? When did you learn the kind of things that we're talking about here? So I'm going to come back and look at some of those comments. But let's thank Robert Baines Jr. for dropping by today. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us all this great information. And we will see everybody the next time on the Healing Words podcast. Bye bye.